Hello and welcome to this week's episode of A Mic on the Podium with me, Michael Seal. Before we start, I want to draw your attention to the two ways you can support the podcast financially. If you would like to make a one-off donation, I've set up a Just Giving page where you can help the show continue on into the future by donating as much or as little as you like. Alternatively, there are 6 different levels of subscription, starting from just £5 a month, over at patreon.com/A Mic on the Podium. There you will find 2 new podcast series, a monthly bulletin, group Zoom meetings, articles, and mini-episodes attached to this series. The details are in the show notes below, and I would greatly appreciate any help you can manage. Today, I conduct a conversation with a Grammy Award-winning conductor who started out as a clarinetist, but after winning the Besançon competition in 1982, he's had a long and successful conducting career, holding positions in South Korea, Iceland, the UK, the US, and his native Finland. It's a great pleasure to welcome Osmo Vänskä. Osmo, how lovely to talk to you today.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
I wonder, because you've had such a long and rich career, whether we can go right back to the beginning and find out when music first came into your life and how it first came into your life.
My dad was a fiddle player, like dance music and so on and so on. And he thought that it's important for the kids to start to play some instruments. So I am the youngest of 3 boys. Mm-hmm. My dad used to say that I don't have children, only boys. And so I got the little violin when I was 9 years old. My older brother got trumpet, and then the oldest one got violin. Mm. And I played one year, and I didn't like the violin. Of course, I didn't want to practice anything, and it sounded awful. So 1 year later, I got the clarinet. There was a church starting a new wind band, and someone gave me the clarinet, and I knew immediately that this is the instrument I would love to play, and had a dream. Would be great to be good enough to play as a professional clarinet player in the orchestra.
Mm. Well, you did. I mean, you like me were a professional player before you went to conducting, and I think if my maths are correct, you became a professional player with the Turku Philharmonic when you were 18 or something like that, which is very young. Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, it was one of my, maybe the second audition or third audition, and I was surprised myself when they gave me a job there. But it was at that time, it was the biggest orchestra outside of Helsinki area, so that was a great school for me to start to learn about those things.
Before you got your job at Turku, was there any thoughts of conducting at all, or were you just obsessed with the clarinet?
I already said about my dream to be a professional clarinet player, but I think that almost at the same time, maybe a year later, when I got my clarinet, my parents bought the stereo system home, the long LP recordings and so on. And I think we had like 3 LPs at that time. One of them was a very young Leonard Bernstein conducting Brahms' second, one of the first recordings with the New York Philharmonic at the new Lincoln Center, Avery Fisher Hall at that time. And it was like I don't know how to describe that. That was a big thing. I thought that might be great to the clarinet, but even greater if I can once be in front of the orchestra and conduct it. And I don't know how many hundreds of times I listened to the Brahms second, and I still remember every tempo, every character of that recording. And then I thought that is my second dream about the musical life. And there actually, maybe I wanted to be a truck driver when I was 9 years old or 8 years old, but I have had only those 3 dreams. And so I am a lucky one, because all of them, not the truck driver, but second and third have happened. And so it means that whenever I played the clarinet in a wind band or the youth orchestra or wherever more than one player was there, I always thought about the conductor who was conducting. Can he, at that time it was only he, no female conductor, sorry. No. Could they hear what goes wrong? Can they fix it? So your question was simple and my answer is complicated or long at least. But every time I play, I thought about conducting. And so it has always been there.
So at some point, I mean, you moved from Turku to the Helsinki field 5 years later. At some point, obviously, the desire to conduct has taken over. And you go and study with possibly, well, one of the two most famous teachers of the 20th century, really. There's either Musin in Leningrad and St. Petersburg, or there's Jorma Panula in Helsinki. I had a 2-week course with Jorma, and other conductors who've come on the podcast have also been taught by Jorma, like Natalie Stutzman and Barbara Hannigan. I wonder whether you could tell us what studying with Jorma was like and what he taught you, how he teaches.
So, my connection with Jorma Panula started at the same time when I started with the Helsinki Philharmonic. I went back to my old school as a clarinet player, so and at this time to study conducting. Actually, they accepted 4 students at the same class. It was 77. 1977. There was one big band conductor called Esko Linnavalli, and then Jukka-Pekka Saraste and Esa-Pekka Salonen. They were the other guys on the same group, and I think that's quite funny to think about. How we started together.
Yeah.
So yes, Jorma, it's still something which I do understand and I don't understand, because he doesn't say anything. As you know, if you have been studying with him, he might say 3 words in 2 minutes. And 2 of them are like cursing in Finnish.
Yeah, I know one of those words very well.
Yeah, but with it, there is something which is really difficult to describe. There is something which creates this kind of atmosphere that you have to try harder. And basically, the main thing is that why are you waving your hands so much? Less, do less, staccato, legato. Those kind of things are other things he is screaming. Oh, he was screaming at them. But I think that it's still the same.
Yeah.
But it's. I think there is something why people would like to come and see him, and then if they have a chance to be in the same room with Panula, then things are happening, even if I don't understand it. And I know that there are many other conductors who have the same feeling that there is something. We just enjoy about that, and sometimes we are like big question marks. What did he mean when he said those 3 words?
Yeah, it's interesting that in the time that I was there, I learned just as much by watching him give 2 words and one of them a swear word to another conductor than I maybe did with myself. As you say, he's a man of very few words, but often he can say it all with a look. But I often thought then that what he was doing was getting rid of all of the outside things and just making me conduct clearer. As you say, give the correct message to the musicians and they'll play legato. Why are you screaming at them to play quieter when you're giving a massive big beat? As you say, beat smaller. The only question that I've had, and I asked this question to Sakari Oromo personally once in Birmingham. I remember Jorma saying to us, why have 1 baton when I have 10 batons? Because he never uses a baton. You use a baton, and a lot of those people, Esa-Pekka uses a baton, Sakari. I can't think of any that don't use a baton. I wonder why that would be. Do you have a feeling on why that might be, that you all ended up using a baton when Jorma doesn't use one?
Well, I think that it's for me, it's a practical question very much. I have heard often from the players in the orchestra who are not closest to the conductor, that they just need to see the baton. The first people, the first desks of the strings are okay, but then they need something. And I have played with the Turku orchestra and Helsinki Philharmonic when Panula conducted.
Yeah.
And he's very clear, but he has very, very special technique, and he can do it because also his hands, he's not right-handed conductor. Even he's writing with his right hand, but he's conducting very much with his left hand, and you need to have that kind of gift of special hands if you want to do the same as he's doing. So my personal compromise is that often I conduct the slow movements without the baton, and I think that I most of the times I have a better connection to the music when, as you said, Jorma's verse, I am using 10 buttons instead of one.
So how long did you study with Jorma, and was there much of a gap between finishing with Jorma, stopping playing the clarinet, and winning the Besançon competition?
I actually was at the Sibelius Academy only two years. He said to me that I'm ready to try and ready to go. I don't know true or not, but I still played at the Philharmonic at the same time. So I was 2 more years there before I left the orchestra. It was a funny thing. I left the Helsinki Philharmonic and then later won the Besançon competition. So I think it was a jump to something nowhere, and then the competition obviously helped me to start getting more gigs and so on.
And as part of winning any competition, well, actually, funnily enough, I spoke to somebody the other day and they said that there were hardly any engagements as the prize when they won their competition. But hopefully when you won the Besançon in 1982, you had engagements then and managers came knocking on the door. And what was that like, those early days?
No one knocked my door. I think I got maybe something in France, 1 or 2 gigs there, and then one in Brussels, Belgium. But it wasn't any kind of big moment in my life. So everything in my life conducting life has happened very, very slowly. And I think that it was hard sometimes to see that other guys are doing more things than I was doing. But I think that on the long run, it was better for me to have time to learn things and to be ready those challenges, which I feel that I wasn't ready finally when they started to happen. But it was slow, and I'm okay with that.
Well, here, because mine has also been fairly slow, but it's grown and grown, and I think I personally am so happy that I did 22 years as a player in an orchestra, and you did 10, and I think that possibly gives us a helping start with how to work with orchestras. But I'm glad it's gone slowly.
Yeah, I think that I was co-principal clarinet with the Helsinki Philharmonic, and we had good collection of the conductors, and so I was paid to study my conducting as I played the clarinet there. So many great names I have seen there, and I'm sure that was the other part of the school. Everything I learned playing there, and then actually I conducted I think twice Helsinki Philharmonic, so that someone was ill, and they didn't get the cancellation very early, and then they said that, hey, come on. Someone said, there was an Italian conductor, Carlo Cecchi, whose cancellation was done on the same day when we had the first rehearsal. So I just got a question: could you start tomorrow morning rehearsals? And here are the scores. and so yeah. But as I said, for me, it has been really important place to learn something about the conducting, and I know that there are conductors who have never played in the orchestra, but I mean their instrument was piano or something like that, and for me it's like a miracle if anyone can be a conductor without being there, because it's like a kindergarten. It's a known language for what the orchestras are speaking and feeling, and so I think that's more natural way to come from the orchestra to be in front.
Looking ahead into your career, you spent 20 years as chief conductor of the Lahti Symphony Orchestra. By the time you finish in 2022, you will have done 19 years with the Minnesota Orchestra. And so, you obviously like being in jobs a long time. And during all of those years as a chief conductor, how did you like the process of hiring players, also possibly firing players? I know in Minnesota there was this famous dispute between managers and players. How did you find it as a boss in those two jobs? Because they're vastly different, I would think, between one in Finland and one in America.
Yeah, yes and no. I think that to be a chief conductor or music director, basically it's very much the same job. Then there are some fine tunings between different systems, like when you have if I'm thinking my years in Lahti, 20 years, the city council or the Council of Cultural Affairs of the city of Lahti, that was the link for the city. And then with an American orchestra there is a board, and you have to do your job with those instances, but the main job in front of the orchestra is and planning, it's very much the same, I have to say. And Lahti was my big school, learning so many things, and also we got great opportunity, great chances when BIS, the Swedish label, needed an orchestra to continue the Sibelius project when Neemejärvi and Gothenburg, who started that project, they got the Deutsche Grammophon deal and then didn't continue with this. So original violin concertos, original Fifth Symphony by Sibelius, original En Saga. Then, as you said, 20 years in Lahti, and our contract goes to 22, so it means 19 years in there. I think that I am a guy, as I said earlier, it's like a slow cooking. If the players don't get too pissed off with me, then we can learn something together, and then there is a chance to make music. I know there are people who are doing 2 or 3 years and then it's done, and I'm happy that I have had orchestras which have been willing to do longer time for me, and I think that it gets better if the people are not too tired with each other.
Well, the other thing that I watched a short YouTube video you did, and one thing you said that I think spending a long time with an orchestra helps this, is that you say that you just think orchestras sound better when they play together, and sometimes that takes time. Do you think that's something that you really hone in on when you start with a new orchestra? Say you're starting as music director in Seoul, or you have already started. That takes time, doesn't it? Yeah,
it takes time, and I think that there are many different characters with the orchestra, with the conductors, and thinking about the first guest conducting from the orchestra side and from the conductor side. I know that there are some conductors like the orchestra is, wow, this is wow, great week on the first time, and then the second time, whenever the second visit is, it's not so hot, and then it gets the other way around. And I have to say that if I am lucky, I can survive from the first week. And if they would like to give me more weeks, then usually it gets better. It's I am also a very tiring conductor, because I would like to ensemble to play well together, and I just cannot keep music in my mind if the ensemble is not good. And therefore I use a lot of time trying to put people together, playing same colors, same kind of breathings, and same kind of rhythmical understanding. And there are many orchestras who just give up. They think that it's too tiring for them, and maybe I cannot give inspiration for them. But if we can go over this one step, I think that there are many examples other than Lahti or Minnesota where it happens, and then the music making gets better and better, and everybody is having better time. So there are many personalities in music business, as everywhere else.
Yes.
I think it's a corporate world. It's the same thing, and there is a chemistry with some conductors, with some orchestras, and then there is non-chemistry where people just hate each other with some the same guys who are loved by some orchestras, they are hated by the others, and that's the blunt reality, and we have to live with that.
Well, it's very true. I remember having a conversation with somebody, a dear friend who's no longer with us, who had played in the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, and I was in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, and we went through 20 names on a train journey on tour many years ago. 20 different conductors' names, and almost to a man, whoever we loved in Birmingham, they hated in Bournemouth, and the opposite.
Yep.
It's yeah, and it is true. The other thing that you've just made me think about is maybe it's because I'm like you. I like my orchestras to play together firstly before I do anything else. Maybe it's because we were in an orchestra, and I don't know any orchestra in the world who doesn't want to play together. That maybe it's because we played in orchestras that we are so obsessed about ensemble. Do you think that might be true? I mean, I remember playing in the orchestra thinking, but it's just not together. Why aren't you fixing it? Why are you not getting it together? Maybe it's that, do you think?
It could be. And then there are like different times in every orchestra's life. So if they have had someone who is like a schoolmaster for years, then they are having great time with someone who doesn't rehearse anything. And if they have had a wild person without rehearsing, then they would like to have next time someone who is doing it. So it depends. It depends. People would like to have something different, and do we like it or not? But that's how it happens.
It's very true indeed. I'm going to go back to BIS, and you did a lot of, well, not only with BIS, but also with Hyperion. You've done a lot of recording. In fact, you are a Grammy Award-winning conductor. But you recorded with Lahti, with the BBC Scottish Symphony Orchestra, and with Minnesota. What is it about conducting that you like? Is it something that you feel that you have to do all the way through your career, recording? Because some conductors don't like recording.
Yeah. Oh, that is also that's also a question. Do you think that I have planned all those recordings which I have done? The answer is no.
No.
I have been lucky that I have been asked, oh, we want you to do this this recording project. Are you willing to do it? And then I said, yes, absolutely, yeah. So it's like guest conducting. We conductors, we cannot invite ourselves to conduct any orchestra. So it's nothing to do what we want to do. But if there is a chance, then we have to think about, is this good for me or not? But I would like to say that if Biss is asking, do I want to do the Sibelius cycle for them with Lahti Orchestra? For some reason, I said yes. and when Biss wanted to do the second time Sibelius cycle with the Minnesota Orchestra, I said, why? I have done one. And they said that, Osmo, by the way, when we start to do the first one, it's over 15 years when you did the last one. So we are lucky if anyone is asking us to do some big projects or even some small project, because I think that there are many conductors, many artists who haven't had a chance to do any recording in their life. So I am lucky. I think I have done very close to 100 CDs for Biss, and that is one big part of my life as a conductor. You asked earlier about how is it to start with the new orchestra, and right now it's happening with the Seoul Philharmonic, and I already have. I'm happy to tell you that we are going to record for Biss. It's not public information yet, but so what I want to say is that if you are able to record with a great producer, then that's the best masterclass for the orchestra. And my person at Biss is Rob Saff, who is a really, really great friend, who is a great musical genius. He hears everything. He knows how to get all the musical things there, and he respects my ideas about the music. I have never had this typical fight, which I have heard often about, how the producer is trying to be a conductor, and then the conductor and orchestra, it goes to the worst situation. So has never happened for me with Rob Saff, and I'm really grateful for all the support, all the help, as he has understood so well what I want to do in music, and has been able to collect that. So if any orchestra can do a recording session with Rob Saff, that is like the best masterclass for everybody. So I can tell you that when I did the first recording with the Minnesota Orchestra for Biss, and Rob Saff was a producer, the orchestra asked, could we get him as a guest conductor as soon as possible?
What brilliant!
And Rob knows this comment and was very happy to hear it. So I cannot point out enough how great collaboration I have had with him and the whole Biss company.
I have a question based on what you've just talked about, which is, if you recorded all of the Sibelius symphonies with Lahti and then you recorded them with Minnesota, obviously the sound of the orchestra will be different. But between the 15-year gap between the two, did your interpretation change massively between the two sets of recordings?
No, I think that the same plan is there, but when I get older, my understanding about life, about everything included to life, is different than it was when I was younger. So like the same tempos, the same idea about the characters, but when I'm getting older, the music is changing too. And a good so, very good so, because if I am thinking myself 30 years ago, 20 years ago, I hope that today I'm not the same guy.
Hello, have you gone? Hello?
I'm still here.
All right, I missed you.
I just said my Finnish ending for the sentence. I said what I said, and as Jorma,
Yeah,
I have nothing to add to that.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've spoken to a Finnish person, but I had many conversations with Sakari Orimo, and yeah, you sit there. You know, obviously, if it's live, I know you Finnish, but I'm doing it with my ears. Yeah. Sorry, Osmo. Very
no,
Finnish.
Lucky you. You haven't spoken with Finnish.
The next question sort of leads on from that. You know, as we get older, as you say, your understanding of life changes. I wanted to talk to you about mentoring your assistant conductors in Minnesota, because I happened to speak to Roderick Cox for one of my podcasts, and he was with you at Minnesota and wanted to be remembered to you. What do you think your role is when it comes to assistant conductors? You know, do you feel that you have to teach them or just give them advice, or how do you use your assistant conductors in Minnesota?
Well, that is the American way. I think that all top American orchestras, they always have associate or assistant conductors sitting there giving comments, and also their job is to prepare the score so that if something happens to the rear conductor, if you want to say that way, then they have to be able to jump in and do the programs. There is no way to cancel concerts. So I think that I would like to speak to them the same way as I wish they are speaking to me. I always ask comments. And the problem is that the assistant conductor, associate conductor, they are always trying to be very friendly, and they are very friendly, and they don't give anything critical. They just, the typical thing is that I cannot hear the soloist there and there, and so question about the balance. But I ask them to ask particularly critical questions, because how do I get better? How do I have a chance to rethink something if people are just saying, oh, it sounds wonderful, maestro? First of all, I don't want them to call me maestro. I am Osmo for them, and I want to think about if there is anything I can learn from them. And so that goes the opposite way too. So when I am, of course, I don't have so often a chance to see their conducting. When usually I'm away when they are, when the assistants are conductor, but then I can see some videos. I try to go to the rehearsals when I am there, and I try to give feedback the same way. And I think that is part of this kind of old system in music, which goes, older musicians, older instrumentalists are helping the younger ones, older conductors are helping the younger ones, and that how it should go. So I try to tell what I see, and I try to tell them that you need to do the pickup beat so that it is in the same tempo as you want to go to the next tempo. It's more about the mechanical things. I don't think that I need to say too many comments about musical interpretations, because we all have our opinions. But as a conductor, we need to do our technical work to make the orchestra able to play. And every time I have a chance to see something and I have something in my mind, I would like to tell it, and I would like to hear the same thing if they can see something about my conducting, because that's just I think that we all have a little bit too nice self-picture about ourselves than if you ask from the players. Well, okay, this is a very private information. You know that Erin Keefe, concertmaster of the Minnesota Orchestra, is my wife.
Yes.
And I can tell you that happens often after 5 hours rehearsals when we go home. Erin said that, by the way, I haven't seen the second beat during the whole day. And that is, sometimes it's hard, but that is what I need. It's just, of course, I think that my beating is really great, that everybody can understand that, and I'm showing everything, but it's not so. It's not so. We all have like a very nice picture about ourselves, which might not be the truth, and then it's nice to have someone so close as the concertmaster in my case is, and who is giving me feedback. And as I said, sometimes it's hard, but that is the best way to try to make things better.
When you have a new score, Osmo, how do you learn it? When I studied with Panula for 2 weeks, he said conductors should write very little in their scores, definitely not use colours. Well, I write a lot in my scores and I use lots of colours. Do you write in your scores to help the learning process? How do you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, I try to study my scores now, much more than a long time ago. There are some opinions is study your scores, never listen to music so that you don't lose your own interpretation. I think that is bullshit. It's if you try to learn something really big, let's say Mahler Symphony, you should be a super great pianist if you are going to find everything on the score with your own piano playing skills, which actually I am a terrible pianist. I need to 35 seconds to make every harmonic changes on my fingers, so it doesn't work for me. So read the score, try to understand what is there, and then I would say, and this is coming from last 10 years, as many recordings as you can. And in my case, no one has told me that I don't have my own will about how I want the music to go. So I think that I have learned finally that more you know about the music you are conducting, and the more you know about that comes often if you have a chance to hear 10 different recordings, 10 different conductors, 10 different orchestras, even better if you have 25 recordings, different conductors, because every time you listen something, it's one layer in your mind. One layer more, one layer more. And then I think that finally I feel that I'm in the point when I can do all my like decisions about what I want. It's based for those layers which I have there after listening to the recordings. And if I try to do my decisions if there are no layers, it's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous because then I am almost like standing on empty space. So you have to read. I have to read. I have to write down things.
Yeah.
And to help connect the things. Of course, the tempo is the most important thing, at least for me. I might not be alone with that idea. The basic tempo you are having with one team, it has so much influence to the whole music you are doing. And let's have a Mahler symphony where everything is connected, and those changes, there are a million details with tempo changes and so on. Yes, right. Now, whatever helps you to do better job, use all the things you can find. I'm speaking about myself. That's what I am doing, and I don't care whatever anyone else is saying about that. But anything which helps to understand how it's written and how the score is put together, anything which helps you is welcome.
Osmo, it is 10 questions time. So I will start with, what sound or noise do you love and what sound or noise do you hate?
I love the sound of the sea. And I hate a snowmobile in the woods, especially when I'm doing my cross-country skiing, enjoying the quiet, beautiful view and a quiet place in the woods, and then some snowmobile are making those terrible noises, and then they leave also the smell of gasoline there, and that drives me crazy.
Brilliant answer. Nobody said that. Nobody's mentioned cross-country skiing. I know the next question, we've had a lot of time free, but it's basically, if you were busy working and you had a whole day off, if you had 24 hours free, what would you spend it doing?
Okay, I thought about that, and I have a list which I would like to share with you. I would like to start with peaceful breakfast, oatmeal with blueberries and very strong coffee. Then I would like to do some exercise. It could be skiing, as I said, cross-country skiing. It could be elliptical, but something which gives me a feeling that I have done something for myself, for my body. Then yoga for stretching, and then my personal thing is playing the clarinet, because I still play. I play concerts, and that is always I have a time to play the clarinet. It's like luxury life for me. Then of course sauna and dinner by my chef Erin, who is actually a great chef. Some TV series at this moment. It's Dublin Murders. If you know the program, it's brilliant. And then I think that little bit of single malt before going to sleep. That might be a great day.
That sounds like a great day. I would have lost a bet, because I would have thought at some point, having done my homework on you, that you might have gone for a motorbike ride.
That is, yes, absolutely. I didn't write it down on my list. Motorbike is one of those, happens too seldom, but it is a great feeling. Yeah, happy to add that on that day too.
Next question. You can have more than one, or you can just stick to one. Who would be a favorite conductor of Yesteryear?
I would like to give you two names, Paavo Berglund and Toscanini.
And I would like to add that I played for Paavo Berglund, and I loved working for him. A real character, but
yes.
What a great musician.
He really was. It's a long list about the things I have learned from him. And actually, I was in Bournemouth like 2 weeks once. He didn't want to. Paavo didn't want to teach, but when I asked about that, he said that you can come to some place where I'm conducting, and then he said that it's okay if you come to Bournemouth. So I heard the rehearsals, and then as they usually do 3-4 times the program outside of Bournemouth, and that was a big thing. And it's not the only thing with Paavo, because he was the chief conductor of the Helsinki Philharmonic when I got my job there. So I have played also many concerts. He was a great musician, and in a positive way, a conductor without compromises. And I think that Toscanini might be, of course I have never met Toscanini, but when I'm listening the stories about him and his recordings, I think that he was a great conductor without compromises too.
And who would be a favorite current conductor?
I would like to say that Haitink is, I know that he has stopped conducting career, but there are many concerts I have seen him conducting, and recordings too. Great conductor. And if I may, Maris Janssons, even he passed away, but it happened just a few, not so long time ago. Absolutely brilliant conductor.
What is the hardest work you have ever conducted?
I'm thinking some Bruckner late symphonies,
Mm.
or Mahler, let's say Mahler 7. Someone might feel surprised about this, but they are also technically, but most of all emotionally, and to find a long line which is keeping the music alive, and especially in Mahler case, there are so many things happening at the same time and connected to each other, and then thinking about Mahler, how there are instructions almost in every bar how to do it, and don't start to accelerate under here, it should start 2 bars later, and then put that together with the fact that he wasn't only a composer, he was one of the greatest conductors at his time. So I think that I always hats off in front of Mahler. He knew both sides. So I always think that as a conductor, my job is not try to find a great interpretation of a piece. My greatest job is try to find out the composer's inspiration about that music. So I have said sometimes that what do the painters said if there is someone like super nerd painting specialist who said that, well, Van Gogh is good, but you have to add, instead of green, you have to put some blue there and some red there. So that's sometimes I feel about the conductors when we want to go out from the score and do our own interpretations. So I'm the luckiest conductor in the world if I can find something which the composer wanted to give us with the music, and that makes my answer about what is the most complicated music to do. That's why I go to Mahler and Bruckner.
That's a brilliant answer. You mentioned Mahler 7. You know, the last movement of Mahler 7 is one of the hardest. You're talking about tempi. You know, those tempo changes. It's so sudden. It's almost like there are 3 people telling the same story all at once, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely well said.
When traveling abroad to conduct, what item could you not leave home without?
That's very easy for me. It's my clarinet.
Ah, and you still take it everywhere with you?
Yes, I try to play every day. So playing chamber music, and it gives me so much something different. It's like conducting is great thing to do, but if I can play the clarinet well enough, that is a great way to do in music too. I just played in Korea in one concert Mozart Quintet and Brahms Quintet with the Quartet of Seoul Philharmonic. Nothing is wrong with those pieces.
No.
I think that we clarinet players are super lucky thinking about the repertoire.
What is the one thing you would change about being a conductor?
I really would like to change the beginning of my conducting career. Let's say I would like to change the first 35 years.
Why is that?
Sadly true. Yes, I think that I have seen during last 10 years a lot of things which I hope I could have done differently.
Well, it's a wonderful answer and a very open and honest answer as well. I love it. Brilliant answer.
Thanks.
Number 9. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Maybe a photographer or a race car driver.
Brilliant. Brilliant answers. And the final one, and you've said that Erin's a wonderful cook, but you could take Erin out for a meal. It can be anything you want. If the world were to end tonight, what would be your choice of final meal and drink?
This is an impossible question, because it's impossible to say one particular food. I'm ready to have my last meal when Erin has been a chef. That's one possibility. Or then we have to go to the temptation is Japan, Korean, which I love, but I think that finally it goes to the Italian cuisine. Some pasta with Italian red wine, absolutely Italian, like Barolo or Montalcino, Montepulciano. There are so many great Italian red wines. And then some special single malt.
Yeah, I do love a single malt. Osmo, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you for the last hour. Stay safe, stay well, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for all the great questions. Stay safe.
Will do. A Mic on the Podium was devised and produced by Michael Seal, with music by Ben Dawson. Next week is a very special episode, as the podcast reaches episode 50. To mark this milestone, I will be chatting to a British conductor who has already appeared on the podcast. Until then, bye-bye.